If you want to speak English naturally and fluently like a native speaker, then don't skip this video because, look down, I'm going to show you 10 phrases that you probably already use in English and give you some of their common and natural alternatives that natives actually use. There are so many different ways to say the same thing in English, but you keep using the same words and phrases again and again and again. That's probably one of the reasons why you don't sound fluent when you speak English. It's important that you remember that fluency is not about how much you know. It's about how much you use what you know. Are you ready to get started? Let's go. Let's compare these two phrases. Which one would you use? Can you help me, or could you give me a hand? Now, when you're just starting to learn English, asking for help is often done in the simple phrase, can you help me? Which is fine. I use it, native speakers use it. But if you want to sound more fluent and natural, right, try saying this phrase instead. Try using this phrase instead. Could you give me a hand? Could you give me a hand? All right. Now, this phrase has the same meaning, but sounds more conversational and natural. All right. That's why native speakers use it all the time, because it's perfect for situations where you need a little assistance. For example, could you give me a hand with these boxes? Could you give me a hand with these boxes? Or could you give me a hand setting up for the party? Could you give me a hand setting up for the party? Instead of using a direct request like, can you help me? Use could you give me a hand because it softens the tone and sounds more natural in daily conversations. Now let's take a look at these two phrases used to say that you do not like something. Which one would you use? I don't like it, or it's not my cup of tea. So let's face it, right? Saying I don't like it is fine, but a bit blunt. And in many cultures, including English-speaking ones, it can sound a bit harsh, all right? So a better alternative would be, it's not my cup of tea. Native speakers, instead of saying I don't like it, which they do, they often say, it's not my cup of tea. This is used to express dislike in a more polite and gentle way. This expression is a great alternative because it sounds less negative and more casual. You can use it in both formal and informal situations. For example, I watched that new movie, but it's not my cup of tea. I watched that new movie, but it's not my cup of tea. That type of music is nice, but it's not really my cup of tea. That type of music is nice, but it's not really my cup of tea. All right. This expression is a fantastic way to express that something isn't to your liking. All right. Without sounding too blunt. Plus, it adds a fun conversational touch to your language. Now, let's compare these two phrases used when making plans with friends or colleagues. Which one would you use? Let's meet later, or let's catch up later. Let's meet later, or let's catch up later. Now, when you're arranging plans with friends or colleagues, you might say, let's meet later, which is fine. But if you want to sound more natural and fluent, like a native speaker, say this instead. Let's catch up later. Let's catch up later. And this means the same thing, right? Catch up refers to reconnecting and sharing news or updates. And it's used often among friends or acquaintances, right? It gives the conversation a friendly and casual tone. For example, I'm busy now, but let's catch up this afternoon. I'm busy now, but let's catch up this afternoon. Or let's catch up later this week. I want to hear how your trip went. Let's catch up later this week. I want to hear how your trip went. Now, this expression is especially common when people haven't seen each other in a while and want to reconnect, okay? It's warm, informal, and perfect for friendly interactions. Next up, we have these two phrases, right? They are used to talk about how expensive something is. Which one would you use naturally? All right. So we have, it's very expensive and it costs an arm and a leg. Saying it's very expensive is fine, People use it, all right, but it's a bit dull, right? Native speakers like to use idioms all the time. And it costs an arm and a leg is a fantastic idiom that people use to say that something is very, very pricey, okay? For example, that designer bag costs an arm and a leg. That designer bag costs an arm and a leg. The ticket to the concert cost an arm and a leg, but it was worth it. The ticket to the concert cost an arm and a leg, but it was worth it. So if something is very, very expensive, instead of say it's very expensive, say it costs an arm and a leg. All right, let's move on. Next up, we have these two phrases. They are commonly used when you don't understand what someone is saying. Which one would you use? Would you use I don't understand or I'm not following you? All right. Now, I'm going to tell you that a beginner would say I don't understand, which is fine used. Okay. But if you want to sound more natural and fluent, you should say I'm not following you. And it's a bit more formal. Okay. I'm not following you. Okay. This phrase is a more conversational. It's polite and also shows that you're interested in understanding better. Okay. So for example, sorry, I'm not following you. Could you explain that again? Sorry, I'm not following you. Could you explain that again? Or I'm not following you. Did you mean we're meeting at 5 p.m.? I'm not following you. Did you mean we're meeting at 5 p.m.? Okay. Now, by saying I'm not following you, you're acknowledging that you're not clear on what the other person is saying without coming off as completely, lost. And it's a perfect phrase for keeping the conversation moving smoothly. All right, so next up we have these two phrases that are used when you have lots of things to do, a lot happening. Which one would you use? I'm very busy or I'm swamped. You probably know which one native speakers use the most. Okay, so there is nothing wrong with saying I'm very busy, no problem at all. Okay, but it's common to hear native speakers say I'm swamped when they have a lot of work to do. Okay, this phrase is often used to say that you have too many things to do. It's commonly used when talking about work. I'm swamped suggests that you have more on your plate than you can handle at the moment. For example, I'm swamped with work right now. I'll call you later. I'm swamped with work right now. I'll call you later. Or I can't hang out today. I'm swamped with assignments. I can't hang out today. I'm swamped with assignments. Let's move on to our next phrases. So here we have it's very crowded and it's packed. Which one would you use and which one would you say a native speaker would use? Okay, of course. Now, saying it's very crowded is fine. Everybody will understand you, but native speakers often say it's packed. Okay, it's packed to describe a place full of people. Okay, it's short, punchy, and captures the idea that there are many people in a location. All right, now this is good. Let's take a look at some examples. The restaurant was packed last night. The restaurant was packed last night. Or the train was packed this morning. I barely found a seat. The train was packed this morning. I barely found a seat. All right, now let's move on to our next phrases. Let's take a look at these two phrases. They are used to express happiness. Which one would you use? Would you say, I'm very happy or I'm over the moon? Now, saying I'm very happy is perfectly fine again, but if you want to sound more expressive and enthusiastic, say this instead. I'm over the moon. I'm over the moon when you're very happy, and it is an idiom. Again, native speakers love to use idioms. And if you want to sound more natural and fluent, start learning some idioms that you can use. Well, you've already learned some in this video, so yeah, awesome. Now, let's take a look at some examples. I'm over the moon about my promotion. I'm over the moon about my promotion. Or she was over the moon when she found out she got the job. She was over the moon when she found out she got the job. So next time something happens that makes you really extremely happy, don't just say I'm very happy. Say I'm over the moon, all right? You will sound more fluent and natural. Next up, we have these two phrases used when we think that something is great. Which one would you use? It's very good or it's awesome. Now, saying it's very good is fine. There is nothing wrong with it, but you don't need to use it all the time. So instead of saying it's very good, native speakers are more likely to say it's awesome. All right, so it's awesome. This is, for example, if you want to say that a movie was very good or a meal or an experience, you can say it's awesome, all right, instead of very good. For example, the concert last night was awesome. The concert last night was awesome. Or this pizza is awesome. This pizza is awesome. This is great, to sound more positive and enthusiastic without having to use the same old words. All right, awesome adds a little extra flair to your praise. Now let's move on to these two phrases used when we are apologizing for being late. Which one would you use? Sorry, I'm late, or sorry for keeping you waiting. Nice one. Now, if you're late to an appointment or a meeting, sorry, I'm late is perfectly fine. However, native speakers often say, sorry for keeping you waiting. Sorry for keeping you waiting, okay? Which sounds more natural and polite. This phrase acknowledges the other person's time and shows that you are aware they've been waiting for you for a long time. For example, sorry for keeping you waiting. I got stuck in traffic. Sorry for keeping you waiting. I got stuck in traffic. Or sorry for keeping you waiting. I had a last-minute meeting. Sorry for keeping you waiting. I had a last-minute meeting. Okay? It's a small but powerful change that makes you sound more considerate and fluent in English. By switching to beginner phrases, to expressions that native speakers actually use in real life, you will sound more natural and also add variety and richness to your conversations. Whether it's asking for help, expressing your feelings, or making plans with friends, these small changes can make a big difference in how you communicate. So next time you're in a conversation, try using one of these expressions or phrases. You will be amazed at how much more fluent and confident you will feel. If you want to take your English to the next level, learn these 50 advanced expressions that native speakers use all the time. Just click right here and I'll see you there. Peace.